Friends, please check if you're already subscribed to the channel. Your subscription is very important to us. We need to reach 1,000 subscribers to generate income and continue with the channel. Now, let's get to the video. I remember the smell first. Roasted chicken, garlic butter, something sweet burning slightly in the oven. The kind of smell that's supposed to feel like home. Comforting. Safe. But the moment I stepped into my parents' house that evening, my chest tightened, not with hunger, but with a quiet dread I didn't yet have words for. Family dinners were rare now. Not because we didn't love each other, but because love, in my family, had always come with conditions. Expectations. Timelines I never agreed to but was still somehow late to meet. I took off my coat slowly, listening. My mother's laugh floated from the dining room, high, performative. My father's voice followed, calm and authoritative, like he was already mid-speech. Plates clinked. Chairs scraped against the floor. They had started without me. I should have known then. When I walked in, everyone looked up at once. My aunt froze mid-bite. My cousin avoided my eyes. My younger brother gave me that look, the one that said something already happened, and you're not gonna like it. Baby, there you are, my mother said, standing up too fast. Sit, sit. We were just talking about you. That sentence. That exact sentence has ruined more moments of my life than I can count. I forced a smile and took the empty seat at the head of the table, the seat my father always insisted I take. The seat that made me feel less like a daughter and more like a project. As soon as I sat down, my father folded his hands. So, he said, nodding to himself. We've been thinking. We. Not I. Not your mother and I. We. I felt my spine stiffen. Thinking had never been my parents' weak spot. Listening, on the other hand, had always been optional. My mother placed a hand on my shoulder, squeezing gently, but not affectionately. It was the kind of touch meant to anchor, to remind me where I came from. Who I belonged to. You're 32 now, she said, smiling like she was offering me a compliment. And it's time we get serious. I glanced around the table. No one spoke. No one objected. No one asked if I was okay. Serious about what? My father cleared his throat. We've spoken to Pastor Reynolds. He agrees this opportunity came at the perfect time. My heart skipped. Opportunity. That word landed wrong. I didn't know I was looking for an opportunity, I said carefully. My mother laughed softly. Oh, sweetheart, you don't always know what's best for you. There it was. My father slid a folder across the table toward me. Thick. Heavy. Labeled with my full name, the one they only used when they were disappointed or proud, never in between. Inside were printed emails. Schedules. A lease agreement. A lease. You'll be moving back here, my father said, like he was telling me what time dinner would be served. Just temporarily. The job at the nonprofit downtown, administrative director, starts in 6 weeks. I stared at the papers. I didn't apply for this, I whispered. My mother's smile tightened. We did. On your behalf. The room felt smaller. The air heavier. They had planned my future. Signed my name. Scheduled my life. Without asking me a single question. And of course, my father continued, living here will help you focus. Save money. Be closer to family. Closer. My cousin shifted uncomfortably. My brother swallowed hard. I finally looked up. Did any of you think to ask me what I want? Silence. Then my mother leaned down, her voice low, intimate, but sharp. This is what you want. You're just confused right now. Something in me cracked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough to change everything. Because for the first time, I realized this dinner wasn't about love. It was about control. And as I sat there, staring at a future they had already decided, one terrifying thought echoed in my mind. If I don't stop this now, I may never get my life back. I didn't touch my food. Everyone else did, forks scraping, glasses clinking, the sound of people pretending nothing irreversible had just happened. My plate sat untouched in front of me, steam rising slowly, like even the food knew it didn't belong to me. You can eat later, my mother said softly, misreading my stillness as nerves. You've always lost your appetite when big changes are coming. I looked at her then. Really looked. Her hair was perfectly done. Her lipstick flawless. The same woman who used to braid my hair so tight my scalp burned, telling me, beauty requires discipline. The same hands that signed my name to contracts without my consent. I need to understand something, I said, my voice quieter than I expected. At what point did my life stop being mine? My father sighed, as if I were exhausting him. This isn't about ownership. It's about guidance. Guidance doesn't involve forged signatures, I replied. That got a reaction. My aunt's fork paused midair. My brother finally looked up. My mother's hand slipped from my shoulder. We did what was necessary, my father said. You were stalling. Living independently is not stalling, I snapped. I have a job. An apartment. A life. My mother leaned forward. A temporary life. Freelance work isn't stability. That man you were seeing. Don't, I warned. He wasn't serious, she continued anyway. You drift, baby. You always have. Someone had to step in. That word again. Step in. As if I were a child wandering into traffic instead of a grown woman who paid her own bills. I pushed the folder back across the table. I'm not moving back here. The room went still. My father's jaw tightened. You already are. I laughed once. Short. Sharp. That's not how that works. He stood up. When my father stands, people listen. Always have. His presence filled the room in a way that made you forget there were exits. We've already given notice on your apartment, he said. My breath caught. You, what? My mother spoke quickly, like she was smoothing over a misunderstanding. The landlord was very cooperative. We explained it was a family matter. The room tilted. You had no right, I whispered. You're our daughter, my father replied. That is the right. Something hot and dangerous rose in my chest, not just anger, but clarity. A sharp, lucid understanding that this wasn't about love, or concern, or faith. This was about obedience. I stood up slowly. My legs trembled, but I stayed upright. You don't get to erase my life because it doesn't match your vision, I said. I didn't agree to any of this. My father looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time, and didn't like what he found. You'll calm down, he said. You always do. That was the moment I knew. They weren't planning with me. They were planning around me. As if my resistance was a phase. As if my consent was optional. I grabbed my coat. My mother gasped. You're leaving. In the middle of dinner. I looked at the table one last time. The food. The folder. The faces that loved me only when I was compliant. Yes, I said. And when I come back, it won't be to ask permission. As I walked out, my father's voice followed me, calm, confident, terrifying. You'll be back, he said. You don't have anywhere else to go. He was wrong. I just didn't know it yet. The night air hit me like freedom, and fear, at the same time. I sat in my car for a full minute before turning the key, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles burned. My father's words echoed in my head. "You don't have anywhere else to go." I told myself he was wrong. I told myself this was just another attempt to scare me back into line. But doubt has a way of sneaking in when you're alone in the dark. I drove back to my apartment, rehearsing what I'd do. I'd pack. I'd call a friend. I'd figure it out like I always did. But when I turned onto my street, something felt off. Too quiet. No lights in my windows. I parked and climbed the stairs 2 at a time, my pulse pounding harder with every step. When I reached my door, my key didn't work. I tried again. Nothing. Then I saw the envelope taped to the frame. Final notice. My stomach dropped. Inside was a printed letter. Legal language. Polite. Cold. The lease had been terminated effective immediately. Locks changed. Personal belongings to be collected by appointment only. I felt the ground slip out from under me. They really did it. I slid down the wall and sat on the hallway floor, my back against a door that no longer opened for me. For the first time that night, tears came, not loud, not dramatic. Just steady, silent. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "You see. This is why we plan ahead." My hands shook as I typed back. "You didn't plan. You sabotaged me." The reply came almost instantly. "We saved you." I laughed then. A broken sound that startled even me. Saved me, by taking everything. I wiped my face and scrolled through my contacts. Friends. Coworkers. People I'd helped move, listened to cry, shown up for. One by one, I hesitated. Too late. Too awkward. Too humiliating. Finally, I called the one person I thought would answer without judgment. The phone rang twice. "Hey," she said. "Everything okay?" I opened my mouth, and froze. Because how do you explain, in one breath, that your parents erased your life over dinner? "I need a place to stay," I said finally. Silence. Then, "For how long?" "I don't know." Another pause. Longer this time. "I'm really sorry," she said carefully. "I've got my sister here. It's complicated." Of course it was. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the dark screen. My father's voice crept back in, smug and certain. "You'll be back." My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me not to. "Hello? I heard you might need somewhere to land tonight," a man said. His voice was calm. Too calm. Who is this? A beat. Someone who understands what it's like to disappoint your family. My breath caught. "And who told you that?" I asked. He chuckled softly. "Your mother. She's very concerned." The hallway felt colder. I didn't give her permission. "You didn't need to," he interrupted gently. "She just wants what's best for you." Those words again. "What do you want?" I asked. "To help," he said. "I have a guest room. Quiet. Safe. No pressure." Every instinct in me screamed no. But I was tired. Homeless. Cornered. "Where are you?" I asked. He gave me an address. I repeated it in my head, trying to decide if this was rescue, or another trap. As I stood up from the floor, one thought settled heavy in my chest. Maybe my parents weren't done controlling my life. Maybe they'd just handed me to someone else. I almost turned the car around 3 times. Every red light felt like a final warning. Every green one felt like a mistake I was already making. The address he gave me led away from the city, into a neighborhood that felt paused. Streets too clean. Lawns too perfect. The kind of place where nothing looks wrong because everything is controlled. The house was at the end of a cul-de-sac. Lights on. Porch lamp glowing warm, inviting, intentional. I parked slowly, my chest tight, and sat there longer than necessary. My phone buzzed again. "You made it," the message read. "Doors open." That should have been my cue to leave. But exhaustion won. I stepped out of the car. The night was quiet in a way that pressed against my ears. No dogs barking. No neighbors watching. Just the sound of my own breathing as I walked up the path. The door really was open. Inside, the house smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old books. Too clean. Too curated. The kind of space where nothing was out of place because nothing was allowed to be. He stood in the living room, hands folded, smiling like he'd been expecting me all his life. "You're safe here," he said. I didn't answer. He gestured down the hall. "Guest room's ready." "You must be exhausted. How do you know my name?" I asked. He tilted his head. "Your mother talks about you often." Of course she did. The room he led me to was pristine. Bed made perfectly. Fresh towels folded with military precision. On the nightstand, water, aspirin, and my favorite brand of tea. My stomach twisted. "You didn't ask what I like," I said. "I listen," he replied calmly. "Unlike some people." That was the hook. I closed the door and sat on the edge of the bed, shoes still on. I didn't sleep much. Every creak of the house felt like movement. Every shadow felt intentional. At some point, I drifted off. When I woke up, sunlight streamed through the curtains. And on the chair by the door. My coat was gone. I stepped into the hallway. Quiet. Too quiet. In the kitchen, breakfast was already made. My phone sat on the counter. Face down. "You should eat," his voice said behind me. "You'll need your strength today." I turned slowly. "Where's my coat?" I asked. He smiled. "I had it cleaned. It needed it." My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. "Did you arrive safely?" "He's such a blessing." I looked at the man in front of me. He knew my schedule. My tastes. My weaknesses. And suddenly, my parents' dinner plans felt small compared to this. This wasn't guidance. This was handoff. As I stared at my phone, one thought cut through the fog. They didn't just plan my future. They outsourced it. I didn't sit down to eat. The smell of eggs and toast made my stomach turn, not because I wasn't hungry, but because everything felt staged. Like a performance designed to convince me I was being taken care of, when really, I was being managed. "I think I'll head out," I said, reaching for my phone. He didn't move. Didn't rush. Just watched me with a patience that felt practiced. "There's no rush," he said. "You have nowhere to be today." My fingers froze. "That's not true." He smiled gently. "Your calendar says otherwise." My heart skipped. "I don't share my calendar," I said. "You don't have to," he replied. "Your mother worries. She keeps me informed." I felt something cold slide down my spine. I turned my phone over. No signal. No notifications. Just the time, wrong by almost an hour. "You turned this off?" I asked. "I stabilized it," he corrected. "You've been under a lot of stress. Outside noise wouldn't help." I stepped back. Give it to me. He didn't. Instead, he walked to a small whiteboard on the wall I hadn't noticed before. Written neatly in black marker. House expectations. Rest until further notice. No unplanned outings. Family contact encouraged. Outside distractions discouraged. My throat tightened. These are rules, I said. Boundaries, he corrected. For healing. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You don't get to decide what heals me. He looked almost disappointed. I thought you'd be grateful, he said. Your parents trust me. That sentence hit harder than any threat. They trusted him. With my life. I'm leaving, I said. He stepped aside, too easily. Of course, he said. After lunch. I bolted for the door. Locked. Not jammed. Not stuck. Locked. I turned slowly. You said I was safe, I whispered. And you are, he replied calmly. From yourself. My phone buzzed in his hand. A new message. He glanced at it, then looked up at me with a sympathetic smile. Your father says you tend to overreact when you feel cornered. My vision blurred. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't help. This was a continuation. A private extension of my parents' control, just quieter. Smarter. I backed away, my mind racing. If I panicked, I'd prove them right. If I complied, I'd disappear. As he turned back to the stove, humming softly, one terrifying realization settled in. This house wasn't temporary. It was designed to keep me. I didn't scream. That surprised me. I thought fear would come out loud, shaking, frantic, obvious. But instead, it settled deep in my chest, heavy and quiet, like a weight pressing me into myself. I sat at the small kitchen table while he cooked, listening to the sizzle of oil, the soft hum he kept returning to, like a lullaby meant to soothe him, not me. You're very tense, he said without turning around. Your mother mentioned that. She says you've always struggled with control. I clenched my jaw. What she calls control, I said, carefully, is actually autonomy. He nodded, like he was indulging a child. Words can be flexible. I stared at the whiteboard again. The rules hadn't changed, but somehow, they felt newer. Louder. Like they were settling into the walls. After breakfast, untouched by me, he guided me down the hall. Your room, he said. It's a guest room, I replied. For now, he corrected. Inside, my suitcase sat open on the bed. My clothes were already folded. Sorted. Stacked by color. I hadn't done that. You went through my things, I said. To help you unpack, he replied. Decision fatigue is very real. I laughed, breathless. So is consent. He finally looked at me then. Really looked. You don't trust easily, he said. Your parents warned me. There it was again. Warned. As if I were the problem they needed to manage, not the person they'd hurt. He reached into the closet and pulled out a cardigan, one I hadn't worn in years. Your mother said this version of you was calmer, he said. Softer. I felt something snap. That version of me existed to survive, I said. Not because I was happy. He paused. Just a second too long. Then he smiled again. Happiness is overrated. Stability lasts longer. I stepped back. On the dresser, my phone sat charging. Still locked. Still wrong. Beside it, another folder. My name. Again. Inside were notes. Observations. Responds well to structure. Defensive when challenged. Attachment issues linked to independence. I dropped the folder like it burned. You're documenting me, I said. Tracking progress, he corrected. I felt sick. This wasn't a house. It was a program. And I wasn't the first. I could feel that in the way he moved, the way everything was prepared, like muscle memory. I sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix. That's when I noticed the mirror. A full-length mirror mounted across from the bed. Positioned so I couldn't avoid seeing myself. He followed my gaze. Self-awareness is important. I looked at my reflection. My eyes looked smaller somehow. Quieter. This is what they wanted, I realized. Not me. A version of me that didn't ask questions. Didn't resist. Didn't leave dinner tables. As he closed the door softly behind him, I whispered to myself. If I don't get out soon, I won't recognize who I am when I do. And for the first time since that dinner, fear turned into something else. Resolve. I waited. That was the hardest part, not screaming, not running, not confronting him. Just waiting. Listening to the house breathe around me. Counting footsteps. Learning the rhythm of someone who believed I belonged to him. The door clicked shut from the outside. Locked. Not slammed. Not dramatic. Just, final. I sat on the bed, staring at the mirror across from me. The longer I looked, the more I felt myself flattening, my expressions dulling, my posture shrinking. Like the room was slowly teaching me how to exist inside it. I stood up and tested the window. Sealed. Of course it was. I pressed my ear to the door. His footsteps moved away, unhurried. Confident. The sound of someone who knew I wasn't going anywhere. That's when I noticed the camera. Small. Almost invisible. Tucked into the corner where the ceiling met the wall. My breath caught. So that's why the mirror was there. Not just for self-awareness. For observation. I stepped back, heart pounding, every thought suddenly measured. Was I already being analyzed? Labeled? Reduced to bullet points like the ones in that folder? I sat on the floor, out of frame, at least, I hoped, and hugged my knees to my chest. This was bigger than my parents. Bigger than dinner plans and forged signatures. This was systematic. Intentional. And I wasn't the first woman to sit in this room wondering when compliance would feel easier than resistance. Time passed strangely. No clock. No phone. Just the light shifting under the door. Eventually, it opened. He stood there with a glass of water. You've been very quiet, he said. That's good. I didn't respond. He set the glass down and glanced briefly at the camera. A habit. Automatic. They worry when you withdraw, he continued. Your mother asked for an update. My stomach turned. You report to them, I said. We collaborate, he replied. Family involvement improves outcomes. Outcomes. I stood up slowly, meeting his eyes. I am not an outcome, I said. I'm a person. For the first time, his smile faltered. Just for a second. And in that crack, I saw it, not concern, not kindness. Control threatened. He recovered quickly. You're tired, he said. Tomorrow will be easier. Tomorrow. That word landed heavy. Because tomorrow meant adjustment. Conditioning. Another step toward becoming the version of me they preferred. As he closed the door again, I stared at the camera and made a decision. If they were watching, then I'd make sure they saw exactly what they didn't expect. I cried on purpose. Not the quiet kind. Not the dignified kind. I made sure it was messy. loud enough to be heard through the walls. I paced the room, hands shaking, breathing uneven, giving them exactly what they expected to see when a woman finally realizes resistance is pointless. I let my shoulders slump. I let my voice crack. I stood in front of the mirror, their mirror, and watched myself fracture on command. Because compliance, I was starting to understand, wasn't about obedience. It was about performance. The door opened sooner this time. He stepped in carefully, like approaching a wild animal that had finally tired itself out. "There you are," he said softly. "This is progress." I sank onto the bed, burying my face in my hands. When I looked up, my eyes were red, my breathing shallow. Convincing. Even to myself. "I just want this to stop," I whispered. He nodded, satisfied. "It will. Once you stop fighting." He sat beside me, but not too close. Close enough to feel present. Far enough to feel in control. "You're safe when you let go," he continued. "Your parents always said you exhaust yourself trying to prove something." I swallowed hard. "I don't want to be difficult anymore," I said. That did it. His posture changed. Relaxed. The vigilance eased. "Good," he said. "That self-awareness is important." From that moment on, everything shifted. The rules softened. Slightly. The door stayed unlocked, sometimes. The camera stayed, but no longer hidden. My phone was returned, with limits. "Trust is built in stages," he explained. I nodded. Thanked him. Lowered my eyes when I spoke. And in doing so, I learned everything. Where the spare keys were kept. When he checked the cameras. How often my parents called, and what questions they asked. They weren't asking if I was happy. They were asking if I was manageable. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and counted breaths, not to calm down, but to stay sharp. Because while they thought I was breaking, I was memorizing the cracks. And the most dangerous thing a system like this can face is someone who learns how it works from the inside. Compliance is exhausting. That's the part no one talks about. How pretending to be smaller takes more energy than fighting ever did. I smiled when spoken to. Ate when told. Repeated phrases they liked. "I understand, you're right, I was confused before." Each word tasted like something I'd have to unlearn later. But it worked. He trusted patterns more than people. And once I became predictable, I became invisible. The house loosened its grip. Doors stayed unlocked longer. The camera light went unnoticed, on purpose. My phone stayed with me at night. That's when I saw the email. It wasn't meant for me. It popped up briefly on the screen before he realized I was close enough to read it. Subject, transition phase, subject ready. Subject. Not daughter. Not woman. Not name. Subject. Later that night, I lay awake listening to him move through the house. Counting. Timing. The same way I'd learned his habits, I was sure he believed he'd learned mine. That was his mistake. I slipped out of bed barefoot, phone in hand, heart steady in a way that surprised me. Fear had burned off. What remained was focus. In his office, the filing cabinet was unlocked. Inside, files. Dozens. Different names. Same handwriting. Same language. Non-compliant at intake. Improved with isolation. Family cooperation essential. My stomach turned. This wasn't about me. I photographed everything. Emails. Notes. Calendars with initials I didn't recognize. A list of donors. A letterhead tied to a faith-based wellness initiative. My parents' names appeared more than once. Sponsors. Partners. I felt something inside me harden into something unbreakable. This wasn't control out of love. It was control as a system. I slipped back into my room just before dawn, heart racing, not from fear, but from certainty. They thought I needed permission to leave. They thought I'd wait for approval. For forgiveness. For understanding. But that night, as the sky began to lighten, I made a promise to myself. I would walk out of this house without asking anyone for anything ever again. And when I did, I wouldn't just take my life back. I'd take theirs apart with the truth. I didn't run. That was the detail that ruined everything for them. Running would have confirmed their story, that I was unstable, impulsive, in need of guidance. Instead, I waited until the house was asleep, until routines calcified into certainty. Then I walked out the front door. No alarms. No confrontation. No drama. I took my coat, clean, pressed, ready for the version of me they thought they'd restored, and left it hanging on the chair by the door. A gift. By the time my parents woke up, I was already sitting across from a lawyer whose eyes narrowed with every document I slid across the table. Photos. Emails. Names. Patterns. You understand what this is, she said quietly. Yes, I replied. And I understand what it cost. The fallout was not immediate. Systems like this never collapse loudly at first. They crack. They leak. They deny. My parents called. Left messages layered with concern and accusation. We were only trying to help. You're misunderstanding. Come home so we can talk. I never responded. Because the truth doesn't need permission. The nonprofit dissolved within months. Quietly. Donors disappeared. Files vanished. People distanced themselves like fear was contagious. The man from the house was charged, not with what he did to me, but with what he did systemically. Paper trails don't care about intentions. My parents lost their standing in the community. Invitations stopped. Whispers replaced praise. At the next family dinner, months later, one I did not attend, I was the empty seat. The one no one dared to fill. I moved cities. Changed my number. Kept my name. Because I wasn't reclaiming a past. I was building a future that didn't require anyone's approval. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that dinner, the smell of roasted chicken, the folder with my name on it, the certainty in my father's voice when he said I'd be back. He was wrong. I didn't come back quiet. I didn't come back compliant. I didn't come back at all. And the most terrifying thing, for people who mistake control for love, is a woman who learns she never needed their permission to leave.